All roads lead to Amy Park for Melbourne Derby number 25, and the third time that Melbourne Victory and Melbourne City have squared off in Ninja A-League finals. Only as far as Low with a volley.
A massive moment for Mires and for Melbourne City.
Free kick from the left. McKenna goes direct on target, and it's found a way in. Rossbacken got to be careful here with the presence of Murphy. Mires bats down a save. And that will do it in the first leg of this semi-final. It is 7 in a row undefeated for Melbourne City against Melbourne Victory.
Two finals fairy tales collide at a sold-out Spencer Park, but only one can add a chapter that ends at the grand final. Decent ball in towards the back stick, a rising header, and the Phoenix have liftoff in the finals. Ball into the box, Hayashi! Listen to that roar! Flicked inside by Miller, a chance for Brisbane and for Brown to lead the semi. And it's their talented teenage striker who has got the job done. It is a night to savour in the Sunshine State.
City and Brisbane taking a one-goal advantage, but Victory and the Knicks will fancy their chances in the second leg of the Ninja A-League semi-finals. Hello and welcome to Dub Zone. I'm Amy Duggan, joined by A-League's commentator Teo Pellizzeri and two-time Ninja A-League championship winner Grace Gill. Welcome to the show. Exciting time of the season. Both grand final spots still very much up for grabs, Grace.
Well, I love that it is so tightly contested. At this point in the season, just one goal separating these games. Going into the final leg, everything is framed up for such a brilliant weekend of fixtures.
Teo, enjoy the weekend.
Look, definitely Sunday. I think Saturday, unfortunately, both teams kicked the can down the road to the second leg, whereas I got a feeling in the Brisbane-Wellington game we got a real insight into two contrasting teams, and it is intriguing as to now who takes the risks and tries to win rather than let the ties meander to their conclusion.
Plenty of interesting times ahead. Let's dive into the action from the weekend where Melbourne City landed the first blow in the derby thanks to a Letitia McKenna free kick. We thought we'd be in for a bit of a cagey affair here, Grace. Is that how you saw it play out?
Well, exactly right, and exactly how Teo's just explained. This was such a push and pull game. I think City in the end were slightly better, but there was so little separating this performance, the results. The fact that this goal, this was what separated the result at the end of the 90 minutes, I think really speaks to the kind of game it was.
This was a 0-0 in spirit, and quite simply a goalkeeping error has decided this game, and Courtney Newbond would be devastated. We saw Melissa Maisels, the goalkeeping coach, giving her a bit of a debrief as they walked off at half-time, and then Victory kept it tight in the second half, not without City creating some very, decent chances, a penalty shot, also a shot on target to try and score again. But I feel as though Victory were very mindful that if they opened up the game against a City team that's got Briley Henry, Holly McNamara and 18 Keane, they could get burnt on the counter. And that probably conditioned their thinking about let's keep it tight for a week, and if we have to take risks, we'll take them next weekend.
A very defensive mindset. We'll see what happens in the second leg. But City's match winner and recently capped Matilda, Letitia McKenna, spoke post-match.
I think for me, it's just I play my best football when I'm having fun and relaxed, and that's what City allows me to do. Just our mentality, we've got such a tight-knit group where we all get behind each other, supporting each other, and we know our end goal. We did heaps of work on them during the week, so again, we knew kind of what to expect, and I know they'll come out our second leg, so
McKenna picking up Player of the Match honours, but it was 17-year-old Shelby McMahon that was fantastic for City. It's crazy to think, Grace, she's now in her third final series.
I know. It's seriously impressive, and I've been so impressed, not just by her across the last couple of seasons, particularly this year. She's really shone for me. She's a 6 that scans her defensive line so incredibly well. She's not shy of getting on the ball. She's always demanding the ball, looking to get it in possession. Sometimes a player of that age can go hiding a little bit and just sink behind other players. She's always scanning, and when you're teaching young players about field awareness, about having that vision of visibility, I think it's something that Shelby McMahon does so incredibly well. For me, it's been such a standout season.
Always looking for what's next and ahead of the play. It's great. Would City be satisfied, do you think, Teo, with the 1-goal lead?
Well, maybe, because they go back to control cyber pitch now where they have a few mental demons. I think that they definitely have the team that if Victory want to take risks, the City will know how to exploit them the other way. And we look at the half chances that they didn't take. I think the penalty shout, probably should have been a penalty. Holly McNamara had Morrison and Bunge handing off, trying to guard her as best they could. And yet she still got free for a few siders. I mean, when you compress it into a short highlights package rather than over the course of a fairly ho-hum 90 minutes, it makes it look like Holly Mac was a lot more prominent in the game than it actually felt during the course of play.
I think so, and I think it was a credit to how Victory set up defensively. Of course, you're going to target a player like McNamara and say we have to close her down, but then that opens up space for the likes of McKenna, McMahon and Keane, who are all really lively.
Well, we're going to head from Amy Park back to City's regular season home. Control cyber pitch for the second leg of this. Any demons at the back of their minds, Grace? I mean, Izzy Gomez's goal knocked them out at the same point last season. They don't have a great record in finals.
Look, I don't think there'd be any demons from this. Yeah, their finals record hasn't impressed by any means, but what we've seen from this City team is that they are strong through and through. The premiership back to back to back. They've got the players to do it. It's going to be a mentality shift about how they bring that consistency in playing squad into another final series and actually go the whole way.
Victory have to actually plant the seed, though. City's checkered record is because other teams went at them. I mean, the genus of this was when they were 2-0 up against Sydney FC in what was the qualifying final. They lost that 4-2 in extra time, eliminated by Victory in the preliminary final the week after, but they were a devastated team after that Sydney loss. 3-3 draw against Melbourne Victory, lost on penalties. The grand final, a game where they had, 500 more passes than Sydney FC and got, mugged on a long ball over the top. And then last season's semi-final where they were adamant that it was offside against Izzy Gomez. There's a lot of history, and you think about some of the mentality monsters from the years where they won grand finals. Jess Fishlock putting the team on her back. The likes of Steph Catley and Emily Van Egmond in the COVID season behind closed doors where they closed out a fairly unremarkable grand final in front of no fans. But since then, Grace, there's always been something, but it is because the other team believed. Yeah. And now we need to see evidence that Victory believe in order to be the next notch on that list of forgettable finals exits for Melbourne City.
Well, Victory have to believe, and for City, I think they do need to find that next level, whatever that is. Finals have been their Achilles heel, and they need to change that this year.
And Victory, a pretty good record themselves. So can City get the monkey off their back? We will wait and see. Someone who is perfectly happy for the monkey to stay where it is Melbourne Victory's Grace Maher. Grace, thanks for joining us again on Dub Zone.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Hey, 1-0 down at the halfway mark, Grace. How are preparations going ahead of the second leg on Saturday?
Yeah, I think, this is my first time being part of this new finals format with the home and away semi. Obviously a lot of the girls from last season were part of that, and they actually, against Adelaide, had a nice lead. So this is a really interesting one for us. We obviously have nothing to lose. It's a must-win game and must win by 2 goals if we want to avoid extra time and penalties. We're firing and ready to go.
Grace, great to see you. Great to see you back out on the pitch and playing regular minutes as well. But I want to ask you about that because across the course of your season, it has been a different story. You've really had to bide your time to make your way back into the starting 11 and play full 90 minutes. For you, the mentality behind that, but also the conversation with Jeff around that decision.
Yeah, it's been a long time coming for me, it felt, this season. And I'm really grateful to be, back playing on the pitch and starting. And I think this year for me has been one of the biggest areas of growth ever. And that's down to, having to really be challenged and push. We have a very talented side and a lot of depth. And earlier on in the season, I was playing and probably not performing to my best. And unfortunately, had a little bit of an issue with an ankle, which put me out of the side, and then had to fight my way back in. And as a player in my sort of position and role, coming off the bench, it's not necessarily something, I'm not a winger that's like an impact sub chasing games. And so I really had to bide my time, and I've really grown and worked hard off the field and have incredible support staff. To sort of, put my best foot forward. And I think for me, the best thing that happened was that break between regular season and the finals football. And I sort of sat down with Jeff and had a really open and honest conversation, which I really appreciated, about what I need to do to get into this side, because we knew we hadn't been at our best throughout the season and we just scraped into finals, and we both had the same goals, wanting to win. And, you know, it was show up in training and make it so hard that he can't not play me. And I seem to have done that. And that's helped me as a player become a better footballer and way more grateful being on the field, having gone through that.
Well, Grace, thank you for being so open about your journey back to the first team. But I want to talk about the team broadly, because ever since full time on Saturday, we even saw in the post-game players smiling, not looking particularly unhappy. What has been the messaging from Jeff and the club generally about the mentality switch? There's no doubt you can come back. We saw it in the Mariners game from 3-0 down. We saw it in the Canberra game, earlier in the season when you came back from 1-0 down. But what is the mentality and what is the messaging within the group this week when you kick off already 1-0 down?
I think victory lived for one-off games, and we know that now this is a one-off game. Obviously, we've got the deficit, but maybe that, puts a little bit of pressure. It's a really interesting tactical sort of minefield for City, being 1-0 up and how they approach it. But for us, it's clear we have to score and we have to come out firing. So, I think at the end of that game, we were very disappointed with how we played, because we, especially on the week just gone with Canberra, we thought we were building momentum, and things definitely didn't go to plan. So we're fortunate that meant that we could look at ourselves and really come out firing for this week, knowing that a 1-0 scoreline is not unattainable to come back from. And we're just looking forward to taking it to their home field and maybe helping bring those demons back for City.
Being a finals game, Gracie, of course, it could go to extra time, penalties, should that be the situation. How prepared is the team for that in terms of the kickers, who's going to put their hand up to take penalties, but also how much faith do you have in Courtney Newborn in goals?
Yeah, well, we were fortunate that we've been prepared and ready for penalties and extra time since we had 3 weeks to prepare for the Canberra game. So this is going on a month now where we're all being prepared mentally. We've had multiple mock penalty shootouts. Everyone's practicing, and I think, we're very confident in the sense of having to step up and taking on that pressure. And, for Courtney, I sort of said to her, don't think, just do, for a keeper, it's a big goal and only one keeper. So the expectation is we score all 5, and she only has to save 1. So we have, we're backing her, but we also don't plan on going to penalties. We'll get it done in the 90 and then save the legs ready for the grand final.
Oh, well, lucky for you, Grace, Jeff's got a pretty good record when it comes to penalty shootout wins, but he's played in finals 23 times with 11 wins and just 7 losses. So the stats are sitting on your side for this match. Has his mentality heading into these one-off games, you mentioned it, Victory loves a good one-off match. Your experience in that will obviously lead into this as well. But you're really great on set pieces. Have you been working this week on a more attacking mindset?
Yeah, I mean, Jeff Hopkins is, if anyone's ever worked under him, you'd probably say what's his favourite thing, and it's defending and set pieces and defensive set pieces. But I've been really, can really be pleased to, say Jeff has been all about scoring goals and really, sort of taking the game on and being really positive. And I've really enjoyed that, especially coming back into the starting lineup, because it's all about, what we can do to hurt teams. And do you know what? We are notorious for scoring set pieces. Previous seasons at Victory, even when I was there back prior to COVID. And we have some great headers of the ball, good set piece deliveries. And so that is a massive part. But this season, things weren't clicking until that final game against Perth Glory, which got us the 1-0 win, which got us into finals, and then off the back of the Canberra game, set pieces. So I think it's absolutely going to be a big asset for us. And the more set pieces we get, the more pressure we can put on City, who have been at times a little bit vulnerable in their set pieces, but we also know the quality they have with their attacking set pieces.
Well, Gracie, best of luck for you and the Victory team for the second leg of the derby this weekend. Thanks for joining us on the show.
Thanks, guys.
We're going to head to Brisbane now, where a sold-out Spencer Park willed the Roar to a 2-1 win over Wellington Phoenix. A fantastic atmosphere up there in Brizzy, Grace, wasn't it?
This was so awesome, and this is what a home crowd advantage really can lead to. The crowd at Spencer Park was unreal, and you could see, well, for Brisbane, having to come from behind early doors, when you've got that many people behind you cheering for you, riding every wave of emotion, I think for Brisbane, that was the difference maker.
It started not the way that Brisbane would have wanted, Teo. The Knicks wasting no time notching their first finals goal, but the crowd really did will them across the finish line.
Yeah, and Wellington, all credit to them for exploding out of the blocks, but they just lost their legs so early in the game. Bev Priestman made multiple references to the quality of the pitch. It is the lowest ranked in the PFA survey regular home ground of any team in the league. And given that they went to KO Stadium first time around to the Knicks with their away game, this was their first experience of it, and I really felt like they were running in quicksand by the end of the game, because they should have been 2-0 up, Grace, and really it was a credit to Wellington for how they prepared for the game to catch Brisbane cold in the first 2 minutes.
Yeah, I think so, and I think the recovery from Brisbane, it's so easy to drop your heads in that situation. I think a big turnaround was when, unfortunately, the injury to Ruby Cuthbert, her coming off, being replaced by Bente Janssen, that massively changed the dynamic, the dimension of the game. Brisbane were far better after that.
Well, it was stand-in skipper Momo Hiyashi that levelled it up. The shortest player on the park steaming in for this equaliser, Grace.
Well, she's just a power, isn't she? And I think the one question Wellington would have about this finish was how easily Momo just streamed in, completely unmarked, take nothing away from the header because it was excellent. And she is such a leader. She leads by example. I really love what she's added to this Brisbane component, but some defensive duties needed to be tightened up for Wellington there.
Yeah, look, Wellington would be hugely disappointed to concede like that, given the height and the composition of their defence, even having taller fullbacks as well. But you see Mackenzie Anthony there trailing in Momo Hayashi, so it was just Momo read the corner far, far better.
Yeah.
She was, and put it in the back of the net. And the winner from the Roar coming from Daisy Brown, who we've seen hit the back of the net a lot recently, standing up for Brisbane all through their injury troubles in the regular season and then delivering now on the big stage when they needed her to, Grace. Is she one of the finds of the season?
I think she absolutely is. I think she has been excellent since coming in. We know Brisbane have been ravaged with injuries, and she's probably played more match minutes than perhaps at the start of the season that what she would have liked. I think she's strong, she's opportunistic, and she's raw as a player, but I really love that about her.
Yeah, and we did preempt it, saying that she's kind of made for finals, that she would impose herself on the game rather than be overawed and shrink into the moment. And Brisbane were persisting for a lot of the second half. For quite a while there, it looked as though the game may have descended into an arm wrestle. But by the end of the match, Raw really should be disappointed that they didn't put a gap in this tie, and they are only ahead by one. At least they are ahead by one, and they did find a way to win.
Well, let's hear from Brisbane coach Alex Smith following this first leg win.
It's fantastic. I can't really say it enough. But they keep outdoing themselves sort of every night we're here. So yeah, it's a real privilege to play in front of them, and they definitely got us over the line tonight. I thought Angie Beard at the back tonight was fantastic. Just that old head on her shoulders, and knows what it is to win. And those moments that are a little bit tricky, how to navigate them. So for us, it is a really good mix of experience and youth. So yeah, we're just looking to take it as far as we can, and looking forward to Wellington next week.
Alex Smith there, in a pretty remarkable adjustment at half-time. Teo, has Brisbane effectively nullified Wellington's attack?
Well, they certainly did in this particular game, and all the underlying numbers show a massive drop-off in terms of productivity for Wellington, not just feeding their attack, but just even maintaining position on the field in the game. You see the number of completed passes, the pass accuracy, how infrequently they were in the opposition half. On the left-hand column there, that's their season average, and everything is massively down, Grace. It stands to reason that Brisbane outplayed Wellington, and that's the reason why all those numbers were so low. But after the first 5 minutes and the Cuthbert injury break, they were non-players in this game. They got totally overwhelmed.
Yeah, I think they did, and those stats are pretty remarkable because it obviously shows that there's something against Brisbane Roar but that Wellington haven't quite figured out. I think for their going into this final game, they have a moment to have a look at some of those things, improve on, and they're going to have to in front of what will be a sold-out Poriel Park.
Now, but that comes back to, did Brisbane cash in enough on on having a team that wasn't creating, that wasn't able to really trouble them, and wasn't posing a great deal of threat, even on the counter-attack. So 2-1's great. They are in front, and we've never seen a team overturn a first-leg deficit to go through. We've only had this finals format for 2 seasons. But should Brisbane have won this game by more?
Well, I think so, and I think especially when we've seen how freely Wellington, at times across the season, have scored, and at home as well. I think Brisbane are in for a bit of trouble here.
Yeah, good point. Well made, Gracie. And plenty to think about for Wellington as they head home for the second leg at Roar Park. We are pleased to welcome Wellington head coach Bev Priestman to the show. Hi, Bev.
Hey guys, how are you doing?
Good, but first taste of finals football for the club, Bev. How has the team responded to that tough matchup in Brisbane?
Yeah, I think responded probably how I'd expect them to. I think they've come together as a group, and we're excited, right? I think it's a historic moment for the club. We get to play in front of our incredible fans, and I think we'll need them this weekend to get us over the line. So yeah, I think the group's together. We know what we need to do, and probably we're all aware that we probably didn't give our best showing in that last game.
Bev, good to see you, and you've mentioned it there, a massive occasion on Sunday at Roar Park, and we saw the home crowd, the impact at Spencer Park that had for Brisbane Roar. How important will that be for you guys come Sunday?
Oh yeah, it's everything. I think it's the reason that this group is so passionate to go and do something special, right? We want to create that moment where everyone remembers where they were when. And I think, yeah, I mean, having a home second leg for us is the reason we did this, right? Imagine you lose at home, then you have to get on a plane and go and possibly go to penalties in front of a massive crowd. So I think for us, it's hopefully the perfect ending to what we know we need to do.
A little bit of strategy behind that decision, Bev. You were quoted during the week at the airport saying you were quite pleased to see Brisbane celebrating after their win at home, and that meant you guys were on track mentally. Can you elaborate a little bit on that for us?
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, and listen, we'd be celebrating if we'd have won that first game. But I think at the end of the day, we view this as it's half-time, right? You're 1-0 down half-time. You've got a 90-minute game. And so really in that sense, you know, in any game, 45 minutes to play, a 1-goal deficit is certainly something to come back from. So for us, I think I'm just pleased to the response of my group in terms of stay together, stay on track, and hopefully we can deliver. But, you know, all credit to Brisbane. I thought they brought their game plan really well, and it certainly worked when we were away from home.
Coach, thanks for joining us. I wanted to ask, how much do you see this second leg as sort of a balance of personnel versus playing style, and particularly given that you are behind in the tie, are you tempted to start Pia Vlock or Macy Fraser, or are you mindful of reintegrating Pia from an injury and Macy still building her minutes?
Yeah, I think, you know, it's do or die, right? So I think at the end of the day, we put the player first, but I think both of those players will be available to start. So I think from that perspective, that's exciting, right? To go home, I think you felt a little bit of the loss of Pia for sure in that game. But yeah, you get to come home and hopefully put your best 11 out, which is great.
What do you make of Brisbane as an opponent? Because the two meetings you've had, a very different looking Brisbane when you played them at KO Stadium, and you still had Sumber. That was the game she got injured. Then they left Bente Janssen in Australia, didn't even bring her to the game at Henry Stadium, which you won comfortably. And now you've got Janssen and Yallop coming off the bench. So through all the adversity Brisbane have faced, does that make them a tough team to scout, or do you still see their principles of play largely staying the same, regardless of their extensive turnover?
Yeah, I think their style of play was evident, right? And yeah, I agree. I don't think we've seen the best of Brisbane when they came to us. I think Henry Stadium didn't necessarily suit their playing style. I think what they're very, very good at is they really stay alive in second phase, and I think we felt a little bit of that, right? They're hungry. And they've got very, very good players. I mean, it's a very good side. And to have all of them back, I mean, if I'm Alex Smith, I'm also really happy, right, to have them come right when it really matters. And now I think that's 5 wins on the bounce. So we're facing a very difficult side. And for both teams, it's a return to hopefully knockout football and beyond for the first time.
And Bev, what about for you personally? You've coached at the top international level, and the cadence change from international football to club football, it's a marathon more than a sprint. How have you found that adjustment?
I've adjusted now. I think in the first 6 weeks, maybe my players and staff were exhausted because I was, you know, you can't change the world in a day. I think that's the first thing. But I've loved being on the grass and getting energy every single day. And, you know, off the back of a poor result or a poor performance, you get to put it right instantly the next day. And I think that's the part I love about it. And then just how connected you can get to your staff and to your players. I think we have a very close, tight-knit group, feels a bit like a family. And you get to do that a little bit more in club football, right? The highs and lows of everyday life, you feel it a little bit more.
Now, I'm sure at the time you gave the team talk, you were aware of the presence of a camera filming, but when you told your group in that huddle, I've done everything I can, it's on you, we saw CJ Bott travelling with the team as a pregnant captain still to provide leadership. Your own messaging and your delegation of responsibility to the team to sort out some of the things that only they can fix. And how has that changed your approach in terms of what you can coach and the things that you say to the players, actually, these are things that I can't hold your hand on, you have to fix them yourself?
Yeah, I think, you know, some of that's probably been portrayed a little bit. I think it happens a lot in the men's game. I'm not sure it get the same airtime. But for me, I think in that sense, I think in that game, what you've seen is a lot of players almost trying too hard, right? And they were doing things that were maybe off the page. And when you do that, you get a disjointed performance, which is what we got. I think we are at our best when we're a collective unit sticking to a game plan and we know exactly what we need to execute. So I think that's a little bit of that. And I think the best teams have a leaderful team, right? They meet together. Yesterday they had a player meeting. I mean, that's been our approach all season is, you've got a captain or a captain's group. At the end of the day, they're in the change room. They cross the white line. We can set them up for success and we're there to support them. But at the end of the day, it is the players that go on the pitch and it's all down to them this season where we are. I think that, you know, they've delivered and I just hope they can deliver this weekend.
And I'm sure you're aware the goals from open play have dried up. You still are scoring from set pieces, but is it mental? Is it technical? Is it, you know, something tactical to bring Michaela Woods back into the scoring form that announced her to the league in such spectacular fashion?
Yeah, I think it's, you know, some of it's luck, right, or fine margins. You look at that post at the weekend, there was another one that could have went in. So I think, you know, I don't get too carried away with the whole, you know, that side of it. I think we're creating the chances. It's just, it's going to come. We've had some injuries, so with that comes the lack of consistency again. We're back sort of where we were when we went through that blip. But at the end of the day, you know, we played Auckland United behind closed doors. We scored 2 open play goals. So I'm not overly concerned in that sense. I think knockout football now is however that ball gets in the back of the net. It's about learning to win and delivering whatever you need to do to win. If that's a set play, I'll take it.
And Bev, finals football, it could go to extra time, it could go to penalties. You haven't been awarded a penalty all season. How prepared are you if that should be the case?
Yeah, we've taken a lot of penalties, and even just the team penalty process. It's a big part, obviously, of being in international tournaments. I had to go through, I think it was 3 in a row in the Olympics to get that gold. So yeah, it's a huge part. And you know, people talk about it being luck. It's definitely not luck. It's by design. So yeah, we're prepared for that. If it goes to that, the team actually penalties look unbelievable. So I'm really comfortable, but I'm hoping we don't have to get to that.
Well, Bev, best of luck for the second leg at home against Brisbane on Sunday, 2:30 p.m. Local time at Pellizzeri Park. That's 12:30 Eastern on our side of the ditch. Thanks again, Bev, for joining us on Dub Zone.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, fascinating stuff, isn't it? And we'll get the tips from our panel in just a second. But we are just a couple of weeks away from the 2026 Dolan Warren Awards. Voting has closed for the Ninja A-League Awards, but you can still cast your vote for a range of categories in the Isuzu Ute A-League. Hosted by Tara Rushton and our very own Grace Gill. Make sure you're watching the 2026 Dolan Warren Awards on Thursday, May 21st. It all kicks off at 7 p.m. on Paramount Plus, or of course you can stream it all for free on 10. Grace, has anyone firmed up as the favourite for the Julie Dolan medal?
You know what? I don't think anyone has. I think it's really open at the moment. There's a few names that you could kind of consider in the mix. It's hard to go past a Holly McNamara as the golden boot of the season, but there's a few names. I reckon Annalise Rasmussen, had she not left sort of midway through the season, she would have been in with a bit of a smoky there. And Bente Janssen, for me, for Brisbane, has also been pretty standout.
Teo, who's on the top of the list?
Look, I'm going to be cagey about this for a reason, that it's always close. The fascinating thing, and a lot of people, don't know this about the Dolan medal, is that it is 3 different panels. It's the media, it's the referees, and it's a technical panel. So that can be coaches, technical directors, former players. 3 very different perspectives, perhaps the referee's perspective the most different of all. So I think be prepared for anything, and as always, be prepared for a very close leaderboard.
Before we go, tips for the weekend.
Ooh, I think the Melbourne Derby game, I think Victory are going to win, and then it's going to go to extra time and pens. And I think for Wellington at home against Brisbane, they're going to get it done in front of a packed Roar Park.
I suspect that City will score first, and it might end up like a 1-1 draw, but City to go through 2-1 on aggregate. And then I don't think Brisbane are far enough in front. I do think Wellington will win. They might only win by 1, but with the home crowd, that might be enough to get them over the line on extra time or penalties. So I do think it will be Melbourne City and Wellington advancing to the grand final.
And just imagine a First Ninja A-League grand final across the ditch. We can all dream, I suppose. Well, that's all we have time for in another edition of Dub Zone. A big thank you to Grace Gill and Teo Pellizzeri for your input today. Enjoy the second leg of the semi-finals this weekend. We'll be back next Wednesday to preview the decider, whoever makes it through the grand final in the Ninja A-League for 2025-26, not too far away. I'm Amy Duggan. Until next time, it's goodbye.